In recent years, the Miami Hurricanes have come up short in a lot of big games. Is this team ready to go into Gainesville and leave with a dub?
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And we're only 18 days away from the Miami Hurricanes heading into the swamp, taking on the Florida Gators. I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC, and writer for allhurricanes.com. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. I think our guest today, he's getting a little anxious. He's been anxious about August 31st in Gainesville, Florida. We got the Truth Teller with us on a Truth Teller Thursday. So, Bruce, Miami is favored 2.5 points in one of the tougher stadiums to play in the country. So the odds makers and the bettors seem to think Miami probably edges it out. Do you feel differently?
Well, isn't that a 5.5 point spread? But they get 3 for being home.
Yeah. And honestly, the swamp might be worth 4. So it's maybe you could look at it like 6.5.
You know, I've been having a lot of second and third and fourth thoughts. We've been talking about this now for months. Yeah. This game, the importance of the game, and all the players that Miami has. And again, I don't want to come off as Mr. Negative because that's what these people say. But I'm nervous now. I am nervous. I'm nervous because when you look at the history, other than a few exceptions, like we beat Oklahoma here years ago when Golden was here, and we killed Notre Dame. We haven't won that many big games. And now we're playing on the road. And this is a team I think on paper we should beat. But it makes me nervous because I don't know if we know how to win. When I say we, I mean this team. They haven't. We've always talked about playing as a unit. Well, these guys have not really played together at all, except in the practices. There's so much new talent. Can they play as a unit? Can they survive something bad happening? Do they know how to win? Does Mario know how to win? Because we've had a lot of issues with him. So again, I'm not being a negative. I still think we should kick their ass, but and that's because of the talent level and the talent difference and the injuries they now have.
Right.
But yeah. As we get closer to the game, I just have these thoughts. Oh my God, what happens if we lose? Which we mentioned last week on the show. We might as well shut this down. To me,
you tell me I have to shut my show down if they lose that game?
Yeah.
Well, and that's going to be
your new house in Orlando and just enjoy yourself. Go to Disney World every day.
Oh man. Well, we're going to talk also on this episode about where Miami sits in the preseason rankings and why you shouldn't work yourself up into such a sweat about it. I know Miami fans have like a certain issue with a team that's ranked in front of them. We will get to that. I want to talk about some of the true freshmen. Now, I think Miami will be able to rely on more experienced players this year than over the past couple of years. But with that said, there's a handful of true freshmen who are making cases to be able to play really early. A couple of them can probably make an impact in that first game. But yeah, I want to talk about, what's the learning curve in learning how to win? Now, first thing, Bruce, when we talk about, big games where Miami has come up short in recent years. Now they have a losing streak against Florida State, that's the biggest game on Miami's schedule in recent years. But okay, would you define, because I think I would define the win over Clemson last year. Would you define that as a big win? Because I know people act as if Clemson has completely fallen off the map. That team ended up finishing with 9 wins last year, and they're actually ranked in front of Miami heading into this upcoming season. I think that overtime win against Clemson, that was a big win.
It was a big win, and it was with Williams. Emory
Williams, yeah.
The defense did well in that game, especially at the goal line at the end. The quarterback took the ball. He shouldn't have. He should have thrown it or something. But whatever. Yeah, it's a big win, but it's not something that I consider at the time a must win or a big game. The team was had 4 or 5 losses at the time. This is a big game. This is a big game in so many ways. It's not even funny. You know, the rivalry, the coaching, maybe the coach up there gets fired. Look at all the talent we've acquired in the offseason and the quarterback that we have. This would be an absolute disaster to lose this game. So now that I think about it, and you've been saying all along, you'd be happy if they come out with a 1-point win. You know what? I guess I agree.
Just win.
I just want to win. But I want to win impressively. I think that's what would make me feel much better if we beat them like 38-17 or something like that. But we got to win that game no matter what happens. But again, I have concern. You know, we have Simeon Barrow. Has he played with this team? No. Has Barron played? No. Has Clark played? No. Has Mish played a game with them? No. You know?
Yeah, but all the names you just mentioned, though, but all the names you just mentioned, every one of them, seniors with high-level experience, couple guys who came out of the SEC, guy who came out of the Big Ten, you know, Mish Powell, I think is going to be really one of the keys for kind of setting the whole tone for the locker room, because this guy comes from Washington, who played in a national championship game last year. I think you're going to be able to lean heavily on the experience of a guy like that. But I understand your point. Like you're saying, hey, these are experienced players, but they haven't played at Miami. They're all coming from other places.
Right. They haven't played at Miami as a unit. And every time we've had these former players on, they tell us the same thing. You have to have experience. And experience, you know, let's say they go down the field and score Florida. They come to the sidelines. Well, we have this great defense. What the hell just happened? How did they score? So, again, I'm not trying to be negative. My brain is just running wild. I don't want to lose that game because I'm going on a cruise the next morning. I don't want to. That means I can't wear any of this stuff on the ship.
Well, hold on. If you can tell me that I need to cancel my show if Miami loses that game, you should cancel your cruise. Like you're telling me I need to unemploy myself, but you still get to go on your cruise.
Yeah, well, if they lose that game, I may enroll myself in a funeral home and just get it over with already. I mean.
No, but I want to, in all seriousness.
But the offense, I look at the offense, Alex, and I think I've been saying, who the hell could stop this offense?
That's the thing.
Mean, it just seems like who? They're so loaded. They're loaded. Like, I'm not saying they're the 2001 team, but that team was 2 and 3 deep in the backfield with the tight ends, with the receivers. They were loaded. That's what this team is, loaded.
Okay, so in terms of the whole, I think the idea of learning to win, I think that's a great theme, and we've seen that over the years in sports. That, you know, Florida State had their 13-0 regular season last year, and they had won, I think, 9 games the year prior. So they had to, you know, learn how to walk before they could run, right? They didn't go from, you know, from a losing team to a 13-0 team in 1 year. It took increments to get there. It took kind of a bridge season to get there. As far as why, I think Miami's learning curve with this unit, Bruce, can be pretty quick. First of all, I'm seeing the evidence of it so far. We're not really going to know until they face some adversity, like you said, but I believe they've got a stronger locker room, more accountability, more members of the leadership council. Talent-wise, Bruce, this team has more depth, at least on paper depth, than they've had in probably over a decade. You know, we think about that 2017 team that kicked Notre Dame's butts and started 10-0. I think this team is a lot better on paper. I think there's a lot more talent on this year's team. And as much as I love my guy Malik Rozier, I'd probably take Cam Ward over any quarterback Miami has had in well over a decade. As far as building on experience,
probably, not probably, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Rozier too, but come on.
Yeah.
You know, and then you talk about Florida State, but that quarterback was the whole thing. I mean, they had Verse and they had this guy and that guy.
Well, they had the top receivers too. They Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson.
And the tight end's gone too, Bell.
Yeah.
So I agree with that. But he really was the reason why they were so good. Right. And that's what makes me think that Miami's going to be very good, even if the defense has some lapses here and there.
Yeah.
But I still think Miami should be unstoppable.
Well, and one of the interesting angles for that game is, you know, Florida's offensive line. The feedback coming out of their fall practices have been their O-line could be a big problem this year, Bruce.
Yes.
And their O-line going up against Miami's D-line, where you're at least 5 deep on dangerous pass rushers. Like you've got almost 3 full units of pass rushers you can rotate in, and you can have that NASCAR package where you can have guys like Mesidor and Bain in the interior with, killers like Tyler Barron and Elijah Alston playing on the edge on 3rd and longs. Now, on the flip side of that, I think what makes this matchup so interesting is to Graham Mertz's credit, I take Cam Ward over Graham Mertz, by the way, but something Mertz has done pretty well is quick, accurate release and kind of compensating for the offensive line not being good. So that's
what I was just going to say.
Yeah.
Quick slants, little swing passes, tosses, screens, quick outs. I don't think he's going to have time to throw bombs.
No, and that's important. That's right. Really keep everything.
We have to control down and distance against them. We've got to put them in a bad second and third down. But I don't think they can sustain it for the entire game. I just don't see how they could match us for an entire – unless we just fall apart, bad plays, fumbles, with our quarterback has been notorious for. But I just don't see them beating us. I don't care how much hype people in Florida want to give them. It should not be a really close game, except if Florida gets the crowd involved and Miami's not ready to take on something like that at this stage of their togetherness. It could be a problem. I just don't see them beating us, though.
Well, I want to talk more about that Florida game, about the experience factors of Mario Cristobal and company, and if there are, concerns over what could go wrong for Miami. Plus, on this episode, we want to talk about the preseason rankings. We want to talk about young Miami players, freshmen who are standing out in practice. So you know what, folks? We're only getting started on this Truth Teller Tuesday episode. You want to keep it locked right here on this brand new Locked On Canes. And I already know you're keeping it locked to FanDuel. Guys, we've been winning money all summer long, and now football season is practically back. We're a week and a half away from Florida State taking on Georgia Tech in Ireland. Guys, I love sports so much, and even, in the summer when the playoffs ended in the Stanley Cup and the NBA, FanDuel let me keep the sports going whenever I wanted to, and all I have to do is open up the FanDuel app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. And you can find those Miami wagers. Miami -2.5 in the Swamp. Miami +450 to win the ACC. You can lock in your football bets today and do it at FanDuel.com. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Thank you so much for making this Truth Teller Tuesday episode of Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Bruce, I think it's also worth pointing out because I get it. Mario Cristobal is going to need to have like an undefeated type of season if he's going to make some people back down from the take a knee narrative. Like that's going to follow him for the rest of his career, right? And one of the arguments that I see from some Florida fans is, well, Mario's incapable of winning a big game. There's no way that guy's going to beat us in the Swamp to open up the year. Well, we're acting like Cristobal has never won a big game before. The guy took his Oregon team, his final year in Eugene, took his team to the Horseshoe and pummeled Ohio State.
Yes, they did.
Beat Ohio State down. He also won 2 Pac-12 championships. That's not nothing.
Right, but that's not Miami, and he hasn't done these things in Miami yet.
Fair. Yeah.
So that's something that I understand, except for the fact that he's here now. He's not in Oregon. Yeah. We have to also look at something that I said all along. I hope we don't have any injuries. Florida does. They lost their number 1 defensive lineman, and their running back is not playing. Now so I had dinner with Barry Burke the other day, who owns Austin Burke, and he's a Gator fan. Because his daughters went there, not because he really loved them, but he does now. Anyway, so he says, we have plenty of running backs and we have speed wide receivers, and we'll see. It's in the Swamp and it's going to be loud and noisy. Yeah, it will. That's why Miami has to smack them right in the face. Yeah. They got to come out and smack them, or Florida gets the ball first, 3 and out. You can't let this team in that environment, in this kind of rivalry, stay in the game. You can't let them stay in the game. You got to jump on them. I hope Mario comes out of the gate fast. He said he's going to throw everything, including the kitchen sink, at the Gators. I hope so. I hope so. And as far as our defense against their offense, yeah, we better stop the run. I mean, I don't see any reason to blitz this guy unless it's like 3rd and 18 or something like that.
Right.
And then they're throwing screens. Right. So I think all across the board, they have a much tougher job to beat us than we have to beat them. And of course, there's special teams and things, which we're pretty damn good at special teams.
Yeah, and I think one of the luxuries that Lance Guidry, Miami's defensive coordinator, is going to have game planning not only for that game but through the entire season is you don't need to sell out and blitz very often with the personnel that you have with edge rushers like Rueben Hurricane Bain, Tyler Barron, Akeem Mesidor, by the way, is absolutely crushing it in fall camp. Like he was kind of the forgotten man because he was out virtually all of last year with the foot injuries. Now he looks even better than he did before from what I'm seeing and from what I'm hearing. And, you added Tyler Barron and Malik Bryant, who moves from linebacker to the edge, has been doing really well. You got some young guys who are probably ready to contribute pretty soon. So Miami's not going to have to blitz too often to bring pressure. What about offensively, Bruce, for this game? Because first game of the season, I think I don't expect Miami to throw like an 80-yard bomb the first play of the game. I think they're going to probably try to establish Damien Martinez first and really test the Gators' defensive front. But game planning wise for the offense, I think it's going to change game by game, quarter by quarter, because Damien Martinez said it best on ACC Network last week. Pick your poison. If you try to key in on one receiver or one tight end, or if you try to really commit to stopping the run or commit to defending the pass, somebody else is going to be able to beat you, because this looks like it should be a very well-rounded offense. Because if Cam Ward wants to go vertical, he can do that. If he wants to dink and dunk to the tight ends, he can do that. I think the tight ends are going to be a much bigger part of Miami's offense this year, certainly than they were last year, because much like Akeem Mesidor, Elijah Arroyo is back healthy, and he's looking great in fall camp at tight end. But then, aside from the passing game, you've got Damien Martinez. You've got Mark Fletcher. We'll see if he plays in the Gator game or not. I hope he does. But A.J. Allen is also having a really good camp. Chris Johnson, same thing. And Jordan Lyle has been one of the best stories in fall camp before the freshman running back is doing really well.
And you didn't mention Lofton, did you? Because that guy could be anywhere in the field. Yeah. But here's the thing. I think that what you said about establishing Martinez on the first play of the game is exactly what Florida's thinking. If I was the coach, if I was Dawson, I'd fake a handoff to him and maybe hit George or somebody in the middle of the field, 15, 20-yard gain. And right from the get-go, they could pass, they could run. That's what I would do. I would play fake on first down and see how much they bite and go from there. Because if you can play fake these guys, and then you could just give it to Martinez, maybe whatever. I just think that's my first play, because I want to see how they react to that. They're probably going to swarm to the ball, and he's not going to have it.
Now, in terms of learning how to win and changing the culture, I think leadership is super important, Bruce. The idea that Miami hopefully has a locker room that's going to hold each other accountable, right? You're not going to allow negative upperclassmen to kind of set the tone for the underclassmen. It seems like they've got like a really positive, driven group of players at the top. And I think about some of the guys who are going to be leaders this year. We're already seeing it from Cam Ward, who's a fifth-year senior. Kiko Mauigoa is back. Right. He's a senior. Daryl Porter, he's a fifth-year senior. He's, going to be the most – he and Mish Powell are going to be the two most experienced guys in the defensive secondary. Jalen Rivers is a very vocal leader. Xavier Restrepo and Wesley Basaint, Bruce. He's not a senior. He's heading into his junior year. Yeah, but Basaint, Kiko Mauigoa was telling me a couple weeks ago that Wesley Basaint is the guy from that linebacker core who's really going to break out. Like, he's played a lot the last couple of years, but things are really clicking for him this year. He was also singled out in a positive way by Derek Nicholson. Miami put out the video in their training camp series, and D-Nick was saying, like, this is not even the same guy from last year. Like,
he's bigger, he's stronger, and he recognizes the offensive plays. Yeah, I think he could have a big year this year. Big year. A really big year. I'm like, maybe good enough to be a high draft pick the year after next, but he's got to do it on the field. Look, I'm thrilled with what they're bringing to the table. It's a lot better than what they've done in the past 15 years with all the talent and the depth that he's built up.
Yeah.
But again, what has he done since he's been here? Is that going to go away? Then it goes away, I think, if they beat Florida and then take care of business, including Virginia Tech on a Friday night. And then it makes me feel better. You know what? They're really better. Now we have the bullseye on our backs, which is fine by me. I'm not worried about being underdogs or favored or having targets. Everybody gets up for the Canes, even if they're not that good. So, we have a legitimate shot. I watched this guy yesterday. What the hell is his name?
Josh Pate or
Pate.
JD Pick. Yeah, Pate has Miami going 11-1.
Yes, he has them 11-1. He didn't say who they lose to, but it could be
Ball
Louisville.
State.
It could be Ball State. Yeah, right. Well, Ball State, that's the alumni, the former players from the '89 national championship. They're being honored.
Oh, that's great. You better not lose that game.
So all these guys are going to be there. I know I'm going to be there, and and I'm trying to get everybody to go to the tailgate. I'll figure it out between now and then. How many of these listeners can actually show up? We have their name on a list or something, and there's security people around it, so you just don't walk in there. But
you brought up the Virginia Tech game, and no matter what happens, win or lose against Florida, no matter what happens against USF, which won't be an easy game, I would expect Miami to beat FAMU and Ball State. But even if Miami goes into that Virginia Tech game 4-0, I'm still going to be nervous, Bruce, because last year they had a 4-0 start. They were supposed to wreck Georgia Tech at home. First ACC opener last year. We saw what happened in that game. With Miami, success in the first month of the season, I think it could be different this year because of who they have on the roster. I think it's a much better roster. So I'm expecting it to be different. But we've seen with Miami that early success, like September success, doesn't always translate to October, or in the case of the Virginia Tech game, late September.
Yeah, I don't know what got into them after they really obliterated A&M after being down 10-0.
Yeah.
And they scored 48, 49 points against them.
Yeah, I think it was
they were that good.
It was like 48-33, I think was the final score.
Yeah, but they have to keep this up. And I know Mario's thought process is they've got to keep a level head about all. Every game is a title game. Every game is a big game. They can't look past these people. They have to play hard every week. Now, we all know that back in the day, Miami would struggle against Toledo or some other crappy team, and
Central
then go
Michigan,
out and blow somebody out. But I don't think Mario wants that. I think there's too much competition and too many very hungry players on this roster that want to get in there. And I just don't see that much of a drop-off at many of the positions. I mean, if you took the linebacker out, Mauigoa, you may have a drop-off because he's that good.
Yeah.
If you substituted the entire offensive line, you'd have a drop-off. I get it. But you know what? This team is so loaded. And I worry about the coaching. I worry about the psychology of game to game. But I couldn't be happier with what Mario has done in this offseason with all the players they got. And let's go out there and let's play the game and see what happens. I'm not sitting here could we go to Gainesville and shock them? I'm only worried about it because I think about all the losses that we've suffered in the last 15, 20 years when our hopes were up. Yeah. Now, do I think we should have played a cupcake first and then it doesn't matter. Just go out and play the game. Go up there and just beat their ass and come home.
I love it. Well, I want to talk about which true freshmen we're going to see make an early impact on this team, plus where Miami sits in the preseason rankings and why you guys shouldn't get so worked up over preseason rankings. You want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Passion, drive, and patience. That's the formula for winning championships, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Thank you for making Locked On Canes your first listen on this Truth Teller Tuesday. Make sure for your second listen, you're checking out Locked On ACC. I co-host Locked On ACC with Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack. We take you around the conference, football previews, courtroom updates, lawsuits, conference realignment, all that good stuff. Locked On ACC, available free wherever you get your podcasts and available free on YouTube. So, Bruce,
wait, you do the show with what's the guy? He's a North Carolina State grad?
Yeah, he's a former NC State defensive lineman.
Does he know about Clark? Does he have an opinion?
He does.
On Clark?
He likes CJ Clark a lot. Like he was he was one of the guys that really told me, like, don't worry about this dude. And I expect Clark to be a starter this year, probably next to Simeon Barrow. Okay. CJ Clark is going to be fine here, Bruce.
Okay. Just throwing it out. I know you mentioned it. I didn't want to interrupt your flow, but you know what?
You're curious. Good. Yeah.
I'm very curious. Yeah, good.
Yeah, so one of the true freshmen who's really been turning heads, Bruce, and this is I don't know if this is going to be a big game one impact, but it's a great thing for the present and future. OJ Frederique, the true freshman cornerback, like this guy continues to turn heads, and the big thing on Frederique is he doesn't play like a freshman. Like his understanding of football. Kind of his understanding of his body and the angles and everything and understanding the playbook. He really gives off upperclassman vibes, which is important because, we talk about Miami really, needing more depth at the defensive backfield. This is a true freshman who may be able to provide some of that right away. And Jordan Lyle at running back is another one. I don't know how much he's going to play right away. Maybe if Mark Fletcher's not like fully ready week one, maybe we see some of Lyle, but of course you also have Chris Johnson. You also have A.J. Allen. So, but Jordan Lyle is someone, Bruce, I mean, Don Solinger was singing his praises on this show with you and me a while back. And then first time I saw Lyle in person in practice, this dude looks ready.
Yeah, I just don't know. I mean, he's going to play the week after, I'm sure, in the A&M game. He'll play against Ball State. Yeah. I don't know if he's going to play up there. Now, if it's a blowout, he'll probably play. We'll see a lot of guys play. The thing about the season is a long season, but the hopes are so high, and we've created this. And so if they lay an egg up there, I'm sorry, I just can't think beyond that. They can't. They have to win this game.
If they're going to turn,
they're going to turn this around. That's the team. They got to beat them.
Yeah.
The rest of it, I think, will take care of itself, including Florida State, because they'll be jacked for that game.
I'm with you on that. Now, here's a true freshman. I wonder if he could get significant playing time immediately. Justin Scott at defensive tackle.
I told you about this.
He looks the part. Yeah.
I kept on saying, man, he's a 5-star and Bain was a 4-star. If Bain could play, why can't he?
Right.
And he comes down here, he says he's bigger, he's stronger, and he's got talent, and he knows what he's doing. And how can he not play? That's what I said. And he's going to play now. He's going to be in the 2 deep, most likely.
Now, Rueben Bain has actually said that this year's version of him is Elija Lofton, the freshman tight end. Like it's like the offensive version of Rueben Bain. And this is like, Bruce, I can't make any guarantees about these other freshmen, but Elija Lofton, I can guarantee you're going to see this guy prominently week one against Florida. And
I think so too.
Sometimes he'll be lined up at tight end. Sometimes he'll be H-back, fullback, wide receiver. This guy's going to be all over. He might play defense if he has to. Like, he's going to be all over the field.
Yeah, and the short yardage, which we've had problems for years. I mean, why don't they just put in another big dude? Have a 6th offensive lineman and go after. Now, you don't have to have him as a fullback, but other teams do it. NFL teams do it all the time. So the short yardage situation, I hope we correct it. Down in distance, I used to think that it was 3rd and long for the other team. It's over. They were going to wipe out the quarterback. Now 3rd and 8, 3rd and 14 is no guarantee anymore. Nope. So these are the things that all of us Cane fans have had to deal with over these last 10, 15 years. Like, when D'Onofrio was here, 3rd and 15 meant nothing to the other team.
There might as well have been 3rd and inches. Like,
might as well. They're going to play 80 yards back, and they'll just beat them. So yeah, those things are ingrained in our brains, and I just want to see something different. That's why I'm nervous, because I know what the history is. I've watched it all. I've seen it all. And other than the Notre Dame game where they were never in it.
Yeah, that was
the big highlight. That was the big, and I was at the Miami Oklahoma game when Golden was here.
Yeah,
and we beat them. But of course, their quarterback didn't play that game.
Right.
So, all right. Anyway,
last thing. So we have the coaches poll came out late last week. The Associated Press poll dropped on Monday. Miami is ranked number 19 in both polls.
Right.
I'm totally fine. Like, I wasn't even sure, Bruce, preseason if Miami would be above number 20. So I'm not 19. I am completely at peace with it. And honestly, preseason ranking to me matters virtually none. I think it is important to be ranked preseason, because if you're unranked preseason, it puts you behind the 8 ball. If you do start winning games, you're not going to climb as much as teams who started the season ranked. So I'm glad Miami's ranked. I think one of the bones that Hurricanes fans are picking about this is that why is Miami ranked 19th and Clemson's ranked 14th, even though Miami beat Clemson head-to-head last year, and they've looked like they've improved their roster more. My explanation would be, despite the fact that Miami won that game last year in overtime at home, by the way, Clemson had a better season last year than Miami. Miami won the game. Clemson had 9 wins last year. Yes. And also, Dabo Swinney, he just gets more of a benefit of the doubt because he's won 2 national championships. So the truth is going to be told on the field. I believe Miami will finish the season ranked ahead of Clemson, but I have no problem preseason with Clemson being ranked higher.
Here's my concern about Clemson. We don't play them. They play Florida State. We play Florida State. Yeah. I don't know who else Clemson plays, but it might not be that tough of a schedule. I think we have to root for Florida State against them, because we can control our own destiny that way, though. I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. I root for Clemson too. But we still have to, so I guess if we beat Florida State and they beat Florida State, it would be us and Clemson should everything turn out. In the title game, and Florida State would be looking someplace else.
But I see what you're saying. Like, if Clemson beats Florida State and Florida State beats Miami, then Clemson
we're in trouble.
We're in trouble. Yeah,
we're in trouble.
But you know what? It's 12-team playoff. We might be able to get a bye week during the ACC championship game and still get into the 12-teamer. It might all work out.
I think both of those teams might get in, but it depends. Yeah. But anyway, I'm just throwing that out right now. Yeah. I don't root for Florida State except for against the Gators. I always root for Florida
I root for a tie. Yeah,
tie.
I don't think you can. You can't tie in college, though. In the NFL, you can tie. You can't in college. They just keep going forever. All
right. So anyway, another week of practice. Yeah. No injuries, please. Let's just get ready for another 18 days from now at 3:30. And
you coming up? Can I convince you to come up to Gainesville?
Nah.
All right.
No, I don't want to go there because I'm going to after the Virginia Tech game. The next morning, I'm driving up to UCF to watch Colorado play. I'm going with Mark.
That's right.
And we're meeting up with Dion and his son and Sap, and we're going to take pictures and hang with those guys for a day or two.
You should tell Dion you just got a job with CBS Sports and see what he says. Did you see that?
Why? What does that mean?
Because CBS Sports wrote an article saying he's like the second worst coach in the Big 12, and then he did a press conference last week, and someone from like the local CBS station asked him a question. He's like, I'm not going to talk to CBS. You guys know what you did. It was a whole thing. It's a whole thing.
I'll introduce. I'll say, hi, I'm Alex Donno. I want to
no.
Oh man, catch him on Locked On Canes.
Okay, I appreciate that. Well, a huge shout out to the Truth Teller. Awesome job. Thank you so much, guys, for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. There's going to be a handful of player interviews late this afternoon. We'll talk about those on tomorrow's episode. We'll talk to you next time on another Locked On Canes, part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.